Whoa, we're here. We're live. What's going on? What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 1 of But Then What? Who knows? We have no idea what's going to happen. This is chaos improv. No idea. They're gonna come there and they're gonna be great. But before we do that, let's go around the horn and introduce everyone here. I can go first. My name's Mystic, aka Siera. I am the creative director and founder of Ottoman Studio. That's where you are if you weren't sure that we're here. We're Ottoman Studio. And I'm excited. I'm excited for this game. You can find me on Utopia Podcast. You can find me on an old show called Both. Both is good. You can find me here. You can find me somewhere else in the near future. Shh. Spoilers. And you can also find me working as a producer for Wizards of the Coast on the D&D team. How about you, Adam? What's up?
That works. I'm Adam. Play Godfrey on the podcast. I'm also part of Ottoman Studio. I
still can't
nope,
hear you.
not yet. All right.
Huh.
What?
Now they can.
Oh,
I thought I
now
fixed
yes.
it.
Okay.
There's a delay, obviously. There's a little
It is
smidgen
bad.
of a delay. Okay.
Wonderful. I don't know how much got through, but I'm Adam, and I'm here.
Drak, what's up?
Yeah. Hi, what's up? I'm Drak or Draconics. You can follow me on Twitter at Draconics. That's Drakoniques. I'm a teacher, PT performer, actually play producer or project lead, whatever title you want to give that. Writer as well. I've been doing a lot of writing recently, which I'm very excited for some of those projects to come out. But I can't talk about all of them. Just follow me on Twitter for when I eventually can. I'm also right now running a Kickstarter for Natural Play podcast and stream that I'm going to be producing, and we want to get funded, called Beyond the Brook, which is a dark fantasy surreal actual play based on the Cartoon Network show Over the Garden Wall, and taking inspiration from other shows like Steven Universe and Adventure Time, other things that are very much like family friendly, but if you're an adult and you watch, you're like, oh, that's actually kind of creepy and weird. We're going to be pulling on those kind of threads. If you want to check that out, you can follow me on Twitter to see the link is in my pinned, or you can check out on Kickstarter and just search Beyond the Brook and Over the Garden Wall actual play. And yeah, I'm very excited for this.
Yeah. I'm very excited for Beyond the Brook. It sounds amazing. And
Sounds so
We've got a very cool cast. We're going to be we announced one cast member today, Black Gold Mage, Lexi McQueen.
Yes!
I'm very excited for that. I'm going to be announcing a few more throughout the coming weeks before the launch of the Kickstarter.
Incredible. Awesome. Well, cool. Y'all might be thinking, what the hell is this show? And I'm about to tell you. So, way back in the day, maybe you weren't as nerdy as me, but I'm going to explain my experience. I did theater. I went to, I had some fun friends who were into theater and acting and improv and comedy. And then eventually I saved up all my money so that I could go to a summer camp. And at all of these places, there was this thing that happened called the story game, where there were no rules, there was no structure. You just sat around in a circle, sometimes around a campfire, and popped around the circle and tried to tell a cohesive story as a group of improvers and friends just hanging out. Well, that's what we're gonna do. There are some rules. I have artificially created some rules that I have made a point that I will never publish. You can play this game however you want. This is a free game. This is an exercise that's been around for so long. It's yours to take. Let us impact your influence to, maybe inspire you to tell a story of your own in this format. But this is how it's going to work. So in a few minutes, as soon as I'm done explaining this, we're going to generate full send chaos, generate a few random plot points. We're going to generate a protagonist. We're going to generate a genre, a general theme, a side character, and kind of a plot hook from this random character generator that I found online. It's readsy.com. It's there for anyone to use. And then from there, we're going to think of a number between 1 and 10 to figure out the order that we go in. And then we're going to tell a story. And we're going to have this handy dandy timer on the screen. Every one of us is going to get 3 minutes before it passes on to the next person. And if you particularly like the way that one of us is telling the story, you have the ability to control how long that person gets to expand the story in the way that they want to by giving us some donations. You can do so through Ko-Fi or through Bits or however you want to here on Twitch. But as you can see in the bottom corner, $3 will grant someone 2 extra minutes and $5 will grant someone double their allotted time. So that's a lot. That's 6 minutes of time in the spotlight to influence the story. From there, we're just going to go around the horn until we come to a natural end. We'll see how long that takes. Normally it's around hour and a half, and then we get through it, but might get into some juice, into the weeds a little bit, which will also be fun. So, chat, any questions? I hope not, but I have to ask. Adam or Drak, any questions? I know we covered all of this, but
No, I don't think I have any questions. Yeah, I'm just nervous and excited. It's been a while since I've just done like purely random, off the cuff storytelling, but
yeah.
I'm excited to give it a try again.
Oh, it's going to be incredible. I recommend having a piece of paper to write down all the names we randomly come up with.
Ooh,
or not.
yeah.
Or not. Just,
You know what? I'm gonna go with or not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be I'm gonna be the spark of chaos in this.
Things can change.
Awesome. And thank you, Burble Jerry, for the follow. We appreciate it. Cool. So I guess we're gonna generate a plot now. And in this plot generator, you can pick a genre, but pre-stream we decided that we just want full send chaos. So we're not going to even pick a genre to keep this generator on the rails. I will say we can generate something else if this doesn't sound fun, but I'm pushing the button. Let's see what happens. Okay. Protagonist. A waitress who has a heart of gold. Secondary character. A busker who has low self-esteem.
A what?
A busker, like someone who plays music or like does something on the street for money.
Bombs in the streets, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the plot is a paranormal romance story about compromise. It kicks off.
Oh, okay.
It kicks off in a baseball stadium with a false accusation.
Okay. Okay.
So that's not as chaotic as I thought.
Yeah.
It could be. Still pretty.
That was a
chaotic.
paranormal what? Romance?
Paranormal romance story about compromise.
Yeah.
Really funny. Paranormal romance. Okay.
How
Maybe
did
I
it
will
start
write
again?
everything down.
What was that, Adam?
It starts in a baseball stadium.
With
Yeah.
a false accusation, I think
With
it
a
was.
false accusation. Mm-hmm. Who did what to whom?
Ooh.
Ooh. Take some time to noodle. Especially because we don't know who's going to go first. And while I get our ticker going with these plot points. Is a busker only music, or can it be anyone who performs?
I feel like I've only ever heard busker used in relationship, like specifically music.
Mm.
But I might be wrong. It might be just any performance.
Yeah.
Post the dictionary definition in the chat.
A person who performs music or other entertainment in the street or
entertainment.
another public place for monetary donations. Cool.
So it could be any kind of really performance, musical or otherwise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. I'm generated a random number between 1 and 10. Whoever's the closest to that number will go first, and whoever's the farthest away will go second, and I will go in the middle. What's your number?
I am going to go with...
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go all the way to the top. I'm going to go with 10.
Okay. Al?
I always go with 7.
My number was 10. So
Oh,
Drak gets
wow.
to start us off.
Oh, I'm nervous. Okay.
Starting us off, once we're ready, let me get the timer going and set as we need it. If you need a second to think about the start, that's totally okay too.
Yeah. And it was just a baseball field, or the baseball stadium?
Baseball diamond, yeah.
False accusation. Okay.
Baseball stadium with a false accusation. And the protagonist is a waitress with a heart of gold. But it's a paranormal romance, so they gotta be... They're spooky somewhere.
Spooky somewhere. Okay.
You ready?
Okay, I think I have an idea. I've never been to a baseball stadium, so I might say things that don't exist in baseball stadiums.
It's essentially just any sort of like sports field, but in the shape of a triangle.
Okay.
Like you can get nachos and hang out, and there's bleachers and seats, and yeah.
Okay.
All right. Ready?
Yeah, I think
3,
I'm ready.
2, 1. Start.
We see the camera pan down from the top, through the clouds down into this stadium, and it's just reaching the end of the game. The home team face a humiliating defeat, and you can tell that from the atmosphere of the fans leaving the stadium. Some are incredibly excited. You can tell that they're rubbing the loss in the opponent's faces, the fans of the opponent's faces. But amongst these fans of the winners, the away team, is maybe the only other person, maybe save for a few kids that were forced to tag along with their parents, who isn't really savoring the loss of their opponents or rubbing it in their face. You see about maybe mid-30s woman, big black curly hair, almost an afro. I'd think very much on the verge of just very big hair and an afro. A very beautiful, I'd say, sundress, one that was very popular on TikTok for a while, a pink strawberry sundress. A friend of theirs got it for them because they thought it fit them, and it quickly became their favorite thing in their closet. They seem to be the only one, maybe not even entirely interested in the game that had just taken place at all. While everyone is slowly filtering out, they're still sat at their seats, watching the field in front of them. As people kind of shuffle by, think, excuse me, pardon me, coming through, as she kind of ends up being a bit of an obstacle for people trying to get around and past her. Somewhere down deeper within the stadium, on the other side of the stadium where the other half of the stadium is being filtered out through, there is a shout, and it sounds like a rather angry one, and commotion begins to erupt. This woman stands up almost like she's waiting, expecting for something to happen, and sprints, dipping and weaving and bobbing between the crowd, people very suddenly stopping to let her through and shouting at her in confusion or anger. And she makes it to the other end of the stadium. And there you see a man who is within their mid-30s, but you can tell that from being out in the sun for maybe far too long, that's really healthy. They have very dark, slightly dried and cracked skin, a very patchy beard, and very slick hair that maybe at some point was really well kept, but right now is a bit of a mess because they are currently slumped up against a wall.
Nice. But then what? This is awesome. Thanks, Carrie and Comfort, for the follow. And we're gonna go to me. The man slumped up against the wall. The woman comes running, her afro blowing in the breeze of her own motion as she quickly gets over to this man. Slumped, you hear, "I saw it," from the man as he slumped on the side. I saw it. And the woman just says, "What? What did you see?" And he looks up at her with these sunken, shocked eyes and his dry, wrinkled, sunburned skin. "I don't know. But haven't you heard the legend? The legend of the player who was killed here one night by a rogue foul ball? Hit in the head instantly. Just kaput." And the woman says, "Yeah, you're saying you saw a ghost?" He says, "Yeah, I think I saw a ghost." And she looks around. The man is bleeding. And, from his head, there's a small wound she notices as she gets closer, investigating, and there's a bat dropped on the side of the ground in this little secluded section of the stadium that they're in. Did someone hit you? Are you concussed? Are you okay? I saw a ghost, okay? You just believe me, all right? I saw a ghost, and you have to believe me. She just looks at him. I think I'm gonna take you, do we need to get you to a doctor? You make you have a concussion, all right? You're bleeding. I don't know if you noticed, but let's go. And the man kind of shrieks away and scrambles in fear. I don't... What is happening? The woman gets close. Did someone hurt you? For real, did someone hurt you? Are you just saying it's a ghost and because you don't want someone to be in trouble? He's just like, "I'm not lying. I swear it's a ghost." She's like, "All right, well, if you want me to take you somewhere," she starts rummaging in her bag. I have some bandages. I get blisters pretty often. So here, she pulls out this big Band-Aid with the 4 strips and plasters it on his forehead. As we go to Adam.
But then what?
Okay.
As she pulls out her bandages and begins to kind of put them on this old man, he's still reeling a little bit, recovering. There's a few voices that ring up from behind, like, hey, that man's hurt. That lady just hit him with a baseball bat. Hey, what's going on? The lady quickly turns around and goes, no, I promise it wasn't me. He said it was a ghost. A ghost came and hit him. A ghost? Now she's making up lies. What's going on here? The lady turns back to the man and looks a little bit frantic. It's like, we gotta do something. They're gonna come after me. The guy quickly looks up. His look on his face dejected, like he's been through this before. He resolutely reaches down and picks up his saxophone that had been knocked from his hand before and slings it over his shoulder. Goes, follow me, I know a couple paths around the baseball arena. And they quickly start running and dive down as a group cacophony begins to build behind them. And the sound of people running and asking for help continues. Quickly, they dive in and out of the stadiums through the sports ball and make their way under the tunnels, through the crowds of people, ducking and dodging, bobbing and weaving, until it feels like they had escaped the people who were running, and there was a moment to catch their breath. The lady takes a few deep breaths, the man huffing, clearly out of breath. They sit down for a moment. She goes, so you said there was a ghost? Yeah, you haven't been in this arena too long, eh? They say there's a man here, hit by a foul ball. The foulest of balls, they called it. Ended him right on the spot. They say now every time the home team gets defeated in such an egregious way, he shows back up just to wreak some vengeance on the lowly performers who still dare wander the path. I don't get it. Why would he... Sorry, man, you're talking really crazy, the lady says. Performers? Why would he be mad at performers? So you had to be there that day. I was there. The away team had come up to bat, hit a couple home runs. Then when the home team showed up, there he was standing at the plate, about to hit the sweetest hit of his life, when a bus car just blew a foul tone from the crowds, causing him to swing a little too hard. The ball went wide. Poor chap never saw the foul ball coming.
But then what, Drak?
There's a moment of silence as this busker sits there, and the look on his face is almost like he's not just remembering that day, but something a bit more. And the woman catches onto this and asks, that busker, was that... And before she can finish her sentence, he nods. Yes, it was me. I was just starting off, trying to add a little bit more music to the lives of the baseball fans around here. And I guess I didn't really test my saxophone beforehand, and it let out quite a squeal. I still think about that day, that life I was lost. So I've been coming here every day I could to see if I can put him to rest. And I think this is the first time I've really seen him. Not just a wisp of smoke in the corner of my eye, but saw him again. The woman stares at him. It's very clear she's not even trying to hide it, and he can very easily tell that she does not believe a word he is saying. But if not this, should be going back to work, taking the night shift, and just gonna have to deal with Dave at the diner. And Dave is nowhere near as interesting as a man who thinks he saw a ghost. So she nods, accepting to entertain this, and reaches out a hand. Jessica. And the man nods and takes her hand and says, Michael. Sorry I got you wrapped up in all of that. They probably won't remember your face for the next game anyway, so you don't need to worry too much about it. But worst case scenario, I'll explain it wasn't you, that you didn't do anything. And he gently touches his bleeding forehead and winces a little bit. But I do need to get back in there. I need to right the wrong I caused, or else I don't think I'd be able to sleep at night. Jessica nods and looks at her watch and is quickly reaching a time where her shift starts. But she places her hand over the watch, almost as if to cover it, to say that if she doesn't see it, she doesn't know it, and goes, "You probably shouldn't go on your own. I'll keep you company in case that baseball bat wielding ghost shows up again. I know a good bit of martial arts and self-defense, so it'll be useful, I think. Do you play?" As she points to the saxophone. Do I have time left? I can't see the timer, so I'm just going.
Nope, it just ended. It just ended.
Okay, perfect.
Great. Michael looks up at Jessica. "Martial arts, you say?" She says, "Yeah, I know it. I know a few things. I'll help you out." It's okay, we gotta wait till the crowd's clear. I know back way in through this break in the fence. You can get back into the stadium once everyone's gone. I have to help him. She's like, all right. So they wait, and the cloudy skies quickly turn to star-filled, deep purples and blacks as the stars shine and the moon comes out. It's a full moon that evening. As they scurry through a break in the chainmail fence, back through the bat, now removed and cleaned, as they walk past where they had met earlier in the day. Jessica looks over to Michael. What are you gonna do? And also, where do you think he is? This is a pretty big place. Probably a lot of locked doors. And Michael looks over at Jessica. He had a spot, I know. She looks at him curiously. I've got this. He puts his saxophone case around to the back of his back, and they begin to walk up the steps of the metal bleachers as you hear like a as their footsteps on metal, kind of in a cadence of drum beats as they walk up, and it echoes through this large, empty sports ball stadium. And he sits in the back corner, and you can see there's a little plaque there on the back of the bench. Those that they place for big sports fans, memorabilia of people who meant a lot to the stadium. And it says, reserved for the sax man. He sits his back up against the plaque, trying to hide it so that Jessica may not see it. He's unable to do so. She puts her arm behind him, kind of blocking his back from covering it fully. So you were more than just some random busker at the game, huh? Is this where you were when you hit the note? He scooches over so the plaque is exposed between them and says, yeah. As we go to Adam.
I'm not nearly half the sax man that I used to be. Like Michael says as he looks down, a little dejected. Jessica very gingerly just puts a hand on his shoulder. He goes, well, why don't you play? You know, I don't know much about sax. I'm sure you're more impressive than you think. Kind of shakes his head and goes, no, I'm so out of practice. I'm not very good. You know, I couldn't really make just no. I insist. You gotta play. He kind of dejectedly agrees. He takes out his saxophone and begins tuning it. He looks back at Jessica and says, "Sure you don't have anywhere to be? It's getting awful late. There's no one else around. Really trustworthy of this random busker you just met." He smiles as he starts tuning everything. Jessica's like, you know, I don't really think that that Dave's gonna mind if I'm don't make it to a single shift. I'll just call out sick. He'll understand. They both kind of smile at each other as he begins to just rip the most beautiful sounding sax solo as it rings out across the field, just filling the entire stadium, this baseball stadium, with this just ethereal sound, just perfect pitch. As they sit there and Jessica admires the way that the moonlight plays on Michael's form, she can't help but just feel just like a little tinge of maybe this was something she was missing in her life. This random sax man at a baseball game, skipping out on a work night to just be wild and free. As the song hits its crescendo and then beats down to the low beats, starting to end, they both swear they hear the sound of a baseball bat cracking against a ball. They look wildly around the stadium, can't see anything. After a moment, there's a loud sound of metal hitting ball as a baseball rolls into the stands next to them. Michael and Jessica both go back shocked and struggle to go find some lights to brighten up this now darkened stadium to see if they could find who hit that ball.
Jessica quickly scrambles in her pockets and pulls out a phone and clicks on the flashlight, and right at their feet is a baseball. And this baseball, it's worn. It's been struck over and over and over again. It's most definitely not to code anymore for any game played now. And there's a splatter of blood on it. Dried at this point, but there's no doubt about it, it's blood. Michael reaches down and picks up the baseball with trembling hands and looks up at Jessica, wordless. Jessica, on the other hand, seems almost like moments before they met Michael, prepared. There doesn't seem to be fear in their eyes or really any surprise, almost as if they knew that asking Michael to play would trigger this, would bring this sign to them. Jessica doesn't meet Michael's eyes. She's already looking out towards the first base, seeing if there was anything, any sign there, holding up the flashlight on her phone. But phones being phones, it's not strong enough to reach that point from where they are. So she looks to Michael and offers a hand. We should go down there, investigate. Michael, at this point, more surprised and confused that she isn't surprised and confused, wordlessly again nods and takes her hand as she rushes down into down the stadium into the main field. There they can see on the home base, there's prints, almost like someone had recently stepped in the sand, the dirt of the diamond, and placed a very firm foot down on this white base. But Jessica's pretty certain, and Michael too, that they clean these bases after each batting to make sure it's easier and better to see whether or not someone actually made contact with it. And most definitely after the game has ended, I think he's here. Michael, keep playing. I think he's here. Michael looks to Jessica and goes, keep playing? I'm pretty sure he wants me specifically. If I keep playing, he'll know exactly where I am.
And as she walks to the pitcher's mound with the dirty ball, Michael stands somewhere between first and second plate. And as he shakily brings his saxophone to his mouth, licking the reed a few times just to make sure the sound is going to be okay, he presses down the buttons to play a note, and all that comes out is the most shrill squeak of a sound. Jessica looks over. That's not what I meant by playing. And Michael looks over to Jessica. That's exactly what happened on the day of the game. I'm a professional. I did everything right. Jonathan knew that. And he points towards home plate, where a batter would have been standing. Jessica looks to Michael. Jonathan? Yeah. You know, the legend, it's his name. The ghost. Jonathan McGravy. The best baseball player we've ever seen in Bridgetown. And Jessica looks at the man. So you knew each other? And Michael just shakily looks at her for a second, eyes wide. Let me just try to play another song. And he begins to breathe life through his saxophone, bringing out the proper notes and cadence. And it once again is the most beautiful, jazzy sounding, warm tone of a bass that only someone intimately familiar with their instrument could make. And after a few moments, they begin to hear the stomping of a crowd in the bleachers, slowly getting faster, faster, and faster and faster until it's just a cacophony of the same metal on shoes echoing throughout this empty stadium. They both stand frozen, look at each other, and with her, can't finish my sentence. Go, Adam, go.
And with a deep breath and an exhale, Jessica finally finds the moment that she's been looking for. She lets out a hand over towards Michael to calm him as she steps forward and goes, Jonathan, I've been waiting for this moment. It's been so long. Michael looks to Jessica and then looks to the stands as the cacophony of sound slowly comes to a single set of footprints that seems to end right at the edge of the stadium. Jonathan! Dad! It's been 18 years, Dad. It's time to let go. It was an accident, Dad. Michael didn't mean to do it. Look, he's been here for so long trying to help you, and I've been here for so long trying to help you. Can't you see? All he wanted to do was make the game better, Dad. He was trying to help. An accident shouldn't be the one thing that makes you so angry. You should be able to pass. And as she says that, there's a sound of a bat hitting a baseball. And in the distance, just more clatters and shatters, like a light had been hit and glass sprays all over. all of the lights in the stadium start to flicker on and off, creating a strobe light effect over the 4 bases and the outfield within. As it flashes, there's nothing, but then there's sight for just a moment of a figure in the crowd. The light goes out and comes back on. The figure is no longer there. It continues to flash, and as it does, the figure of Jonathan McGravy gets ever closer to the field, making his way to the home base. Baseball bat in hand, glove in the other. He approaches and walks right by Jessica towards Michael. Jessica exclaims, "Dad, no, please, please, he was just trying to help, Dad." The ghost doesn't seem to respond as he slowly makes his way towards Michael, who, now frozen in fear, saxophone in hand, trembles just in fear and terror. He drops to the ground and begins to back up from the form as he recognizes the ghost that had struck at him earlier that day. John, don't you remember me, John? John, we were working together. Look, I didn't know that you were up to bat. I thought it was still the opposing team, John. I'm so sorry, John.
What?
I'm so sorry. As Michael scrambles back, the dirt and sand of the baseball diamond coating and changing the color, dyeing it a deep brown and red. The flickering lights start to flicker faster and faster until it seems like a sustained image of Jonathan is approaching. The glove drops from Jonathan's hands, but the baseball bat remains dragging across the ground. Then suddenly, with the next flash of light, Jessica is in between Jonathan and Michael, arms out wide, trying her best to be a shield for this busker. Dad, please just listen. He didn't mean to play that foul note. He doesn't even know how it happened. He's really good. He knows what he's doing. Whatever happened, I don't think it was him. I think he and... She looks to her father, tears in her eyes, but a stern, determined expression on her face. I think he and you were sabotaged. You were on a streak. You hadn't lost a game. Any game you were in, you won. But that day, that foul ball was enough to take out their best player. I think that was planned, and I don't think it was by him. This entire time, Jonathan, even with Jessica in between them, seems to be looking through her at where Michael is. And even with the body of Jessica blocking his way, Michael shivered under the cold daggers being shot his way by this ghost. But as Jessica says that it was sabotage, that it might be planned, that he was taken out, his eyes finally drift up as if they just noticed Jessica for the first time. And initially that expression on his face is twisted in anger that had gone from one target to now another that they had just been notified of. But it very quickly softens as he recognizes this person. Their daughter, they hadn't truly seen her in years, and now she was a grown woman. And it goes from a softened expression to one of deep sadness, as even in this revenant, angry state, they realize how much time they had lost.
You hear from Jonathan as his ghostly face softens and looks towards Jessica. As he tries to speak to her, but is unable to in his ghostly form. Michael, cowering on hands and knees previously, now just head head in hands, falls to the ground, sobbing. What is he trying to say? He gets out between sobs. Jessica looks from the ghost to this busker man whom she didn't recognize. And as she does, in this moment, a hope almost that maybe these two are the family she's longed for a really long time, is shoved to the side as a shrieking high woodwind instrument note shrieks through the baseball diamond. And standing at the bench where the plaque to the sax man once was is a woman with long blonde hair, big front teeth, shining in the moonlight, smiling, with a clarinet in hand. Michael looks. That was the note. That was the note. Who is that? He scampers to his feet as quickly as he can. Ghostly Jonathan, softened and vulnerable Jessica, and reinvigorated Michael all run toward the stadium. As Jonathan drops the bat, Jessica goes to run, stepping through it, as the bat itself seems to hold an incorporeal form to match its wielder, running up, through all of the outfield, through a hidden door, up towards where the stadium Saxman plaque sits and waits.
Oh, I should have known. As they rush through the crowd, trying to get, not the crowd, but they rush through the secret door, trying to get back up into the stands. I should have known. Becky McBuxton. Who? Jessica asks, confused at this point. Jesse McBuxton. She's the other busker here. For years we used to compete. She was always so jealous of me in the crowds. It must have been her that day. Yeah, but that doesn't make any sense. Why is she here now? Did she see Jonathan? Does she know about what's happening here? Why? Jessica's typically calm and prepared demeanor now undermined by this additional entity existing within the baseball stadium. She kind of slows to a stop as Jonathan kind of disappears into nothing, and Michael is trying to goad her to continue going forward. She goes, just wait a second, Michael. Let's think about this for a second. Michael goes, no, we gotta go. This is what we've been waiting for. Becky McBuxton can't get away with this. Michael, stop. We have to come to some sort of compromise here. We can't just keep chasing every ghost that shows up in the stands today. I need answers, Michael. Your name is Michael, isn't it? Michael looks towards the exit, his body just wanting nothing more than to continue going forward and to leave this place, to get out of this situation. He takes a breath and goes, fine, okay, 1 second. We'll have one moment here so we can iron everything out, but then we've got to go. Jessica, we've got to. We've worked too long for this. Jessica goes, okay. First thing, how did Becky get in here? 2, how do you know Becky? Who is she? If it wasn't your instrument, why did you make the screech when you were standing between home base and first base? What is happening here? Michael sighs for a moment and goes, all right, Jessica, I think it's about time for you to know the truth. For you to know why we had to be here.
Oh boy. As Michael is just about to begin to explain this, the viewers will have a meanwhile. What happened? How did Becky get in here? We rewind about 5 minutes. As you can see, the camera pulls away from Michael and Jessica on the diamond, discussing and trying to placate this angry ghost, and see Becky just outside the stadium in all black, just coming out of their car, their fairly beat up and run down car, looking around, making sure that no one was watching, that there were no security guards of any kind. Luckily for them, Bridgetown was a fairly small town, didn't have the need or requirements for constant security. She climbs over the fence, throwing her clarinet case over first before she then crawls over herself. It had been her goal, her mission to undermine Michael for years now. Michael had been one of the best buskers in Bridgetown, quite honestly. Anyone you ask or speak to in Bridgetown would agree. He's almost a household name, a celebrity of sorts. And she always was envious of that. And when she saw a chance to ruin that, to undermine him, she took it. And it resulted in the death of Jonathan. While that was never her intent, that was never her goal, it was the smear on Michael's name that she needed to snatch the first place spot, the favorite spot of, when it comes to buskers, of Michael. And as she crawls out over this fence and climbs through the back entrance that Michael had only just moments ago shown Jessica, she makes her way to the saxman's seat and raises her clarinet to her mouth and blows, letting out a shrill shriek as she looks down at Michael and Jessica, savoring the confused and terrified expression on Michael's face. And as Michael, and who she can only make out to be Jessica. I think you're muted.
I can't hear you.
There was a helicopter, so I muted myself. Michael goes to Jessica. I know you have a lot of questions. Becky McBeckerson. Well, she had a crush on Jonathan. Came to the game every day. And waited for him. Wrote him honestly beautiful clarinet songs that she would play as he walked up to the plate to take his hit. You see, we didn't hide that we were married, but we also didn't flaunt it. And Jonathan liked to keep his private life private. So I didn't realize until you said back there that you're Jessica McGravy? And Jessica stares at this man, illuminated only by her phone flashlight in this crowded cement pathway up to the bleachers in this sports ball stadium, with compassion and eyes welling up with tears. So you're the one who... Oh, wow. She exhales deeply, letting go of this tension she's held in her chest for a very, very long time. I have more questions. Michael looks at her. Yes, I imagine you do. And if we get this all sorted, I'll answer them. She says, okay. So, Becky was in love with my father? Michael says, yeah. Yeah. And she also hated me.
Wow, that sounds like quite the complicated... I never knew. Jonathan stops Jessica. Not Jonathan, sorry. Michael stops Jessica there. The hand goes, let's do this. I think I know how to put your father to rest. Let's do this. And they both together, flashlight in hand, make their way out to the bleachers. As they step up the metallic bleachers and look ahead, they see the form of Becky sitting in the saxman seat. She had just clearly taken a screwdriver and pried off the last bit of the plaque from its stand and stands menacingly in the moonlight as all of the lights in the stadium that had been flickering go fully off before just a single one over that stadium goes on. Michael hesitates for a moment, seeing this sight. He begins to turn, but then feels the reassuring hand of Jessica on his back. She looks and sees him give her a nod. He turns back and starts making his way up the bleachers that, like he had done 100 times before. As he goes, he's getting out his saxophone and getting ready to play. He goes, Becky! Now we shall end this once and for all to see who is the best in this town. I challenge you, Becky, to a music off. We will both play and let the fates decide tonight. The loser will leave this town forever. The one who prevails shall remain. Becky sneers and cackles. Why would I agree to such a barbaric challenge in this place? I already have you right where I want you. You are nothing anymore. You're second fiddle in this town, and I am on top. You don't even have your plaque here on this board anymore. As she waves the plaque and then just tosses it like a frisbee out of the stadium. As she does and she cackles, suddenly all of the lights start to dim. And she looks now, noticing for the first time that things aren't as they should be. She had sabotaged the electrical grid before, but not like this. This wasn't supposed to happen. Something else is at work here, and for the first time, Becky looks concerned. Michael goes, all right, let us begin.
Michael reaches for his saxophone and begins to play immediately the most beautiful tune. the two other instances Jessica had heard him play, it was incredible. There was no doubt about it. It was the best saxophone performance she'd ever heard. But this was something more. This was something else. It made her go through a roller coaster of emotions, almost like he had orchestrated it. He's planned it, puppeteering exactly the strings to pull with the notes that he plays. Even Becky, for a moment, catches herself tapping her foot, but quickly stops, refusing to show any form of enjoyment of her opponent's music. And then suddenly the lights begin to get brighter over their section of the stadium. And within the stadium, their row of seats, what originally seems like wisps of dust and smoke seems to be kicked up. Becky looks around confused, thinking maybe that there was someone running by, a fan turned on, something, but there was nothing. There was no one, just these wisps of smoke dancing around the place. And as the other lights begin to turn on around the stadium, the light seems to bounce off and play off this smoke in a way that for a moment, for a second, and for minutes at a time, they seem like people, the outlines of people in these seats, tapping and bobbing their heads to the music. Michael has his eyes closed, deep within the music that he's playing, but seems to smile, despite not seeing what was going on, almost like he knows what's going on as he plays music for the dead. The ghosts of people, beings that have passed by, anyone within earshot, ethereal or otherwise, managing to hear this music and coming to enjoy the performance that he has put on for them and for Becky. Frightened, Becky reaches for her clarinet, not even waiting for Michael to finish his piece as she begins to play as well. And despite Jessica being very much on Michael's side, she can't deny that Becky has skills too. By far the best performance she had ever heard, played with a clarinet ever. But it doesn't seem to capture the hearts or lack thereof of these spirits dancing.
Becky plays faster, as loud as she can, as soft as she can. She brings every ounce of dynamic storytelling to her clarinet playing, and yet it's no match for Michael's smooth, sultry, deep, beautiful sax playing. And as he moves from long, fulfilling notes to short, staccato, jazzy attacks, you see almost like a ghostly form in between them. Jonathan appears between them. Becky staggers. She misses a note. It's a little flat. It comes out as a honk. But Michael turns and begins to play just for Jonathan, his love, his husband, his partner, who's been gone for so many years. Finding out just today that he was indeed a ghost haunting this place. The confirmation, the sorrow, the grief, everything he's felt about this disastrous single moment in a ballpark, a place that they called home, a place that they enjoyed each other's talents, that they supported each other, that they were there for one another in the ups and the downs. And this woman destroyed it all with one note of that instrument. You see Jonathan walk towards Becky and kind of reach out towards her slowly. Jessica, standing in awe, watching as all of this happens, her first experiences of anything paranormal being all in the last 6 hours. She is awestruck at the power and beauty of Michael's playing, and at the passion for the folks and the spirits and the beings in the seats. To know that this other world even exists, she begins to feel more connected to her two fathers. Knowing that they're there. And Jonathan reaches out even closer to Becky. She tries to back away. She trips a little bit over the bleacher that she's standing in front of and ends up seated right where the plaque once was. Normally not able to touch physical things, Jonathan reaches out, clasping the end of the clarinet and slowly pulling it out of Becky's hands as the lights begin to flash and the crowd stomps and cheers, and suddenly silence.
Silence for just a brief moment before Becky screams at the top of her lungs. Terrified, she just tears out of the stadium as quickly as she can, back to the fence that she had climbed over before. She scurries up it as quickly as possible, leaving the clarinet behind. She gets torn and shredded by some of the barbed wire at the top of the fence, no longer caring to be careful going over the top. And as she hits the other side, she looks up at the stadium and sees just the crowd of ghostly figures waving gently goodbye as she gets into her vehicle and drives out of town for the last time. The camera zooms and pans back into the stadium where Jonathan and Michael and Jessica all stand together and give each other an embrace, a long hug that has long been missed. They hold it for a moment, and there is nothing but warmth and compassion. It's a silent moment as they all stand there, letting the last notes of music fade out and the silence come in. As you look over the foggy benches, the forms of the ghosts who have come for Michael's play start to very slowly wisp back into nothingness until just the three of them stand there together. Jonathan backs up for a moment, and the two of them, that being Michael and Jessica, look towards Jonathan one last time and then give each other a big embrace. As they wave, and Jonathan smiles for the first time. There's no hatred left in the eyes, no malice, no coldness, only warmth. As he is finally released, able to return back to a peaceful rest, knowing that what had been done, and he no longer had to feel resentment for that terrible, tragic night. Jessica and Michael, working together, make their way out of the stadium and look and find the plaque. It says the Sax Man. Jessica wipes off some of the dirt underneath, and it shows the Sax Man monogrammed underneath, the one thing she hadn't seen the first time, blocked by Michael himself. Michael McGravy.
She holds it up to Michael and says, "Do you want it back on there? You can probably get it sorted. Say it was a vandal of some kind that tore it off." Michael seems lost for a moment, still looking back at the spot where he had last saw the spirit of Jonathan, but sighs and looks to Jessica and shakes his head. "No, I think the person I was playing for isn't here anymore. And so I don't think I should take claim of that seat anymore." She nods and then hands it to Michael. "You should still keep it in memory? I won't tell if you don't. And he smiles and takes the plaque and runs a hand over the engraving on it as he remembers how Jonathan thought tooth and nail to convince them to set this up, and nods. Yeah, I think we can hang this up at home. Jessica kind of seems to shuffle from foot to foot at the mention of home. And Michael looks to her with a smile and almost as if he's always wanted to do this, ruffles her hair as if she was a little kid. As she laughs and bats his hand away, he says, "Speaking of home, I know you're a grown woman now, you don't need it, but you're the kid of my love. As far as I'm concerned, you're family too. So if you ever want to stay over or just visit to talk," and before he can even finish his sentence, she says, "Yes, I would love to. Maybe you can teach me how to play," as he gestures to the saxophone. "I've tried my hand in a few different instruments, but it never really stuck. I think that might." And a smile spreads across Michael's face as he nods, being able to play again for someone dear to him once more.
That's the end. That's the end if I ever heard it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was so emotional and funny at the same time. I didn't expect that.
Yeah. That was wild.
Becky McBuxton? Was it Bexon?
Becky
Wow. I feel like I need to process that. Holy smokes. Yeah. I got emotional.
That was so fun.
Definitely got emotional near the end, yeah.
Well, folks,
Yeah.
that was episode 1 of But Then What? And we're going to do these once a month, second Tuesday of every month from here on out. Always with a special guest, but always with myself as your host. And we would really love it if you hang out with us. Go around the horn one last time. Drak, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, hi, I'm Drak or Draconics. You can find me on Twitter at Draconics. That's DRAKONIQUES. The usual spiel. I do everything TTRPG related, or will be doing it. I am a TTRPG performer, producer, writer, all of that jazz. I'm currently running a Kickstarter for Beyond the Brook, which is a actually podcast and stream. It's going to be both. Based on Over the Garden Wall. It's a dark, surreal fantasy with plenty of dark comedy and adventure thrown in. Actual play. And if you want to check that out, you can follow me on Twitter to see the pinned tweet with the link to that. Or you can just search on Kickstarter Beyond the Brook and Over the Garden Wall inspired actual play. We're sponsored by Die Hard Dice. And do you know what? I'm going to announce it here first. All of you get the sneak preview of this. But we're going to be getting some custom dice inspired by Over the Garden Wall and Beyond the Brook, as there's going to be one of the incentives for the Kickstarter. And they're limited, so if you want one, you're going to have to back the Kickstarter when it goes live.
Yes!
Which means you should probably get notified and sign up now, so you know when it does go live. But yeah, that's it from me. I definitely teared up a little bit at some point, so that is...
We told a story. Adam.
Yeah. I'm Adam. I go by at Fondue Rage. I used to stream a bit. I'm off the ball on that, but I do play Godfrey in the Utopia podcast, and I was a co-host for Both Is Good. You can find me on places. I'll probably be moving soon. I don't know where things are. I don't know anything about social media. I am just here. Thank you so much for running this. This was awesome. Like, having been in the first one too, I feel like this story was so much like concise. Like, I feel like the zags weren't as like, there were definitely zags, but it never like took away from any of the story beats, and that was
the yes and was so on point. Yeah,
so good.
Cool. I'm Mystic or Siera. You can find me as Mystic_musings_ on most things, or some combination of those things, because you know how usernames are horrible and hard to get. I am the creative director and founder of Ottoman Studio, so thank you so much for being here. We have a very modest subscriber goal. We're trying to get 5 subscribers on our Twitch channel. So if you're here and you're not a subscriber and you would like to, or you have, a free Prime Gaming sub available, hit that little sub button and help us get to that goal so that we can keep getting more and more new shows on the docket. I am the lore keeper of Utopia podcast, which airs here every Monday. And if you liked this and you're watching us live on Twitch, this is going to be a VOD and an audio podcast that you can listen to later. So tell your friends, follow us on social media at Autumn Moons, and yeah, you'll get all the notifications. You'll know when this is live, and you can say, hey friends, do you want to cry about a paranormal romance that starts in a baseball stadium with a waitress and a busker? Here you go. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Drak, for being a part of this. And Adam, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you both and your time.
Thank you. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah. Well, that's it for now, but we'll see you around. Bye, everyone.
Bye.